Hey guys, Ice Hockey Aussies here. We've got another trade to talk with you guys about today. It's two trades actually. It's from the Pittsburgh Penguins. The reason why we'll talk about both of them is kind of intertwined, basically. The Pittsburgh Penguins have acquired Mikael Granlund from the Nashville Predators for a 2023 second round pick. Now, in order to do this trade, they made a trade earlier in the day where they traded Teddy Blueger to the Vegas Golden Knights, and in return they received Peter Deliberatore and a 2024 third round pick. Basically, they just needed to free up some cap space to get Mikael Granlund in. Both the returns, I mean, yeah, like I'm looking at the returns and thinking Mikael Granlund's probably a better overall player than Teddy Blueger, but the return for both these players is pretty similar. So yeah, I'm a little bit confused around why Nashville didn't get probably a bigger return than just a second round pick. I mean, I know I think they needed to free up some cap space, so maybe that was the situation. They were just sort of handcuffed and had to release him for that those reasons. But the guy's got 2 years left on his contract. He's put up some good numbers over a lot of his years in the National Hockey League. And he's got some playoff experience as well, where he's also done similar and put up some reasonable numbers as well. So, yeah, a little bit confused on the return. What are your thoughts, Shad?
Yeah, something similar. Teddy Blueger's not too much, more of that gritty forward. So they off that salaries to free up some space. They get a third round pick in regards to a Deliberatore. I don't think it's going to turn out to be much. It was a 6th round pick, and it doesn't look like he's done too much. But yeah, I think Nashville could have got a little bit more for Granlund. I understand he's got a 5 mil cap. I know that Nashville probably wanted to clear some cap space to get into the salary cap guidelines, but I feel like he was still worth at least a first because of how he's played. He doesn't score many goals. He's only been over 20 goals twice in his career. But he throws up assists left, right, and center, and it kind of reminds me just a little bit of Huberdeau, just in that sense, like just throws up a lot of assists, and if he could somehow get chemistry with someone like a Crosby, though he probably wouldn't go on that line, probably more on a third line. When you get like an assister that can, and you put some sort of silky forward alongside him, you can get that Barkov Huberdeau chemistry going. So I think that could be something that happens. He'll probably slot in on the second power play as well, depending how Pittsburgh want to do it. So they get some special teams out of him as well. It makes them better, makes them harder for the push, because I don't think Blue is what they needed, and I think this is a better fit. It does push them, higher into the salary cap issues for Pittsburgh. But yeah, I'm still surprised by the only second round that they acquire from Pittsburgh in regards to this. I know he's 5 million. He has 2 years left on his after this year, but I still think he was worth at least a first.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. I think yeah, it's got to be the salary cap issue. I feel like they had to have been handcuffed into this trade because yeah, there's no way that you are handing over a player of Granlund's caliber for a second round pick when you've literally just watched the same team you're trading him to get a third round pick for a lesser player. So and obviously Teddy Bluger's he's the UFA as well. So Granlund has term, all the rest of that. So 100% this is literally essentially a cap dump for Nashville. whilst just getting whatever they can. And for the Pittsburgh Penguins, it's jumping on a fantastic opportunity when it presents itself. They only give up a second round pick, which they're not really going to miss. They're in win now mode. That second round pick's not going to matter for them. So yeah, brilliant acquisition by the Penguins. They get an upgrade from Blueger to Granlund, and ultimately they give up a second round pick and they get a third round pick in return. So yeah, 100% great acquisition by the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think it makes them stronger. They're still in a tight race for the playoffs, with the 7 other teams that are also sort of trying to compete for that last wildcard spot. So there's no guarantees they're going to make playoffs at this point, but I definitely feel like this trade helps their cause.
Yeah, no, I agree. On the Nashville front, they definitely are preparing, for their new GM and everything. Like they've just gone and keep acquiring picks left, right, and center. They're kind of getting into the Arizona echelons of just how many picks they've got. Some of that coming from getting Tampa's basically a whole entire draft class, draft year, in regards of picks. But it seems that's the route they've gone. I'm kind of surprised in this deal that there was no third team. I know he's got 2 years left on his contract, but there's no third team that was willing to eat some of the salary, and Pittsburgh were willing to give a pick to do that. Because they really are against the salary cap limit, and I feel like they should have been reducing his contract just a little bit. It didn't have to be 50%. It could have been 25% or something, but just something to just get that a little bit extra so they can get that another depth player, which is something I would have liked to see. So, not too sure why they didn't go down that route, but I definitely like the trade from Pittsburgh. I think Nashville could have got a bit more, but I understand the trade from their side and what they're trying to do. And Vegas, they get a little bit grittier with their pickup. I don't think he's going to make too much of a change, but maybe he fits down in that depth role.
Yeah, definitely a depth player for Vegas for sure. On the Pittsburgh front, not sort of getting a third team in to sort of eat some of that salary. I mean, maybe they couldn't find someone, or maybe they just didn't want to have to give up something else.
I don't think they
They,
want to. Yeah.
yeah, they get 5.5 mil from the Zucker contract ending. They've got Dumoulin contracts ending and Tristan Jarry's contracts ending as well. So, I mean, you would think if Jarry re-signs with them, he'd probably get a bit of a pay increase on what he's currently got. But in terms of Zucker and Dumoulin, I couldn't see either of them pulling in much more than what they're currently getting. Like I don't think Zucker is going to justify another $5.5 million contract, not at 31 years of age. So I mean, they might not even keep him. Who knows? But I think if anything, he probably finds himself. They probably find themselves freeing up some cap space there, and potentially they even see Granlund being a replacement for Zucker, if they don't feel like they can sort of re-sign him. So maybe that's sort of why they didn't go down the 3-team
Well,
cap dump.
I think maybe they're expecting that they're going to be in a retool rebuild situation soon. Don't want to give those picks away. I know Sullivan kind of wanted to get in on Chikrin, but Ron Hextall wasn't willing to do the picks that were in request of Arizona to get Chikrin. Looking at the trade that now Ottawa have done with him, I don't think it was that big of an ask. So I think Ron Hextall has been pretty stingy with his draft picks in regards to keeping them, and I think maybe that is in regards to maybe he's expecting to be bad eventually soon. Um, However, with that said, you sign these players, Crosby and Malkin, Letang, for they got three. Well, Crosby's got 2 more years, but 3+ years on these contracts. So it's kind of interesting. yo-yoing that, and I think maybe also, a lot of GMs lose their jobs if they trade their picks, and then eventually the team crashes, and so maybe that's just another way of him holding onto his job. But I
Yeah,
find that very interesting.
yeah, it is. It is quite interesting considering like I could have understood the holding of the picks if you know if they had decided to let Malkin go and Letang go and go down that rebuild, but they've committed to going for at least another 3 years whilst Crosby's still around. So yeah, for me, Jacob Chikrin fits that profile perfectly because he's contracted until the end of Sidney Crosby's contract as well. So sort of fits that mold perfectly. Like get him in, and yeah, well, you're right. Like what Ottawa gave a first and 2 seconds.
It's
Pittsburgh
not
can
much
fulfill
when
that.
you're expecting to play playoffs for the next 3 years, is it?
Well, I don't think it's a lot to give up for a potential Stanley Cup. So, and they could have realistically they could have gotten rid of they could have gotten Chikrin and Granlund if they had brought in a third team to potentially eat some of that contract. I know you're eating a contract for 2 more years after this year, but for a team like Arizona, they're not going to be good for another 2 3 years. So that cap space means nothing to them. So you could 100% have got someone in on this trade and potentially gotten Chikrin on top of that. And those two moves, you would really start asking the question of can Pittsburgh make it a fourth cup in their dynasty? And honestly, their blue line would have welcomed that sort of move. But you know what? Wasn't to be. Their GM was too stingy. They get Granlund, which is still a great pickup, and they don't pay much. So, all in all, great trade from Pittsburgh, and yeah,
Yeah, no, great trade. Still perplexed on the whole system, what they're trying to do, but yeah, like the video. Leave a comment below what you think of these trades and the Chikrin, if they should have went and got Chikrin as well. How Vegas fold out with getting Blueger. Uh, is this a good return for Granlund for Nashville? Could they have gotten more, or is this the most they could have got? And yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, and yeah, leave us your thoughts. Anyway, we'll see you on the next video.
take care, guys.